Hello everyone. In this chapter we're going to talk about melody, we're going to talk about pitch, and we're also going to talk about what makes a good melody in music. First of all, we're going to discuss what is a melody, but second of all, we're also going to talk about various quality of the melodies, what makes a good melody, how are melodies created by composer throughout centuries. So first of all, let's try and define melody. The melody represents the tune of the piece, the part that we can remember, that we can whistle, that we can hum, the part that makes that piece recognizable to an ordinary audience. What I mean by that is think about your favorite band or your favorite artist. You're gonna have that particular artist. They're recognizable because there's always in the forefront, right? In the music video, in the concert, in the recording, you recognize their voice, you recognize the tune of the piece. Nobody really knows who the background singers are or who the background instrumentalists are. It's the same in music. We have two main entities for any musical piece. We have a melody, that's the equivalent of a lead singer. It's the part that we remember. And then we have the accompaniment, which is pretty much everybody else. So in this particular case, your melody is the important one, is the lead singer. So what makes a melody? The melody is composed by a succession of pitches. The pitches can be low, thick sounding, such as this one. These are pretty thick sounding, and we call those low pitches because they have a low frequency. So we take the word frequency out of it, we just call those low pitches. And the pitches that are thinner sounding, they are of a higher frequency, we call those pitches high pitches. And some of the example of the high pitches are here. Now, the pitches, there's a high number of pitches in music. And the question was, how are we going to name them? In MUS, we give them the names of the first 7 letters of the alphabet. In Europe, they give them different names, but in the US, we use the letters of the alphabet. So we start with A, we go to B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Now you notice there's only 7 letters, and there's a lot more pitches than 7. What we do is, once we go through a sequence of 7, the next pitch we're going to repeat the same sequence. So let me demonstrate that, and perhaps that's going to be a little bit clearer. Here's A, here's B, here's C, D, E, F, G, and next what I need to do is, if I want to go any further, is I'm going to repeat the sequence. So here's another A, and I get my next A, and so on and so forth. And I can do that as much as my instrument allows me. Sometimes I'm going to, on the piano, I can do, I have 88 keys, so I can play more than, 2 sets of pitches. On some other instruments, on a human voice, where the range of the instrument is limited, I can only play maybe 2 or 3 sets of pitches. Now, when I have a pitch, for example, I'm going to play an A again. Here's the A again. And then I'm going to play the A that's higher than this one. It's the next A that's higher. Sorry, here's the A. So here's another A, another A. The sequence of the 8 consecutive pitches between this A, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up to A, this 8 pitches is called an octave. So this A to this A, I can say that they're an octave apart, okay? Because there's exactly the whole sequence has been repeated only once. So there's 6 pitches in between those two A's. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A. So from A to A, that's an octave. It's the same from C to C. Here's another C. And go to another C. And then I can say these C's are in an octave. Now, it's the same with the D's. Here's a D. Going to another D. And these ones are an octave apart. So, we talked about the pitches. Now, what are scales? The scales are groupings of consecutive pitches, usually 8, but in some musical cultures there could be less than 8. And these groupings follow a certain pattern. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the scales that exist because that's more of a music theory or a music fundamentals type of question. It's not really important for our particular class. But I want you to remember a couple of things. First of all, that the pitches in these scales must happen consecutively. So if I was to play a pitch, I'm going to play the A again. Here's the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. I have 8 consecutive pitches that happen consecutively, one after the other. Thus, I am having a scale. And second of all, in classical music, there's 2 types of scales that we are going to deal with. It's major and minor. And the way that's important, the reason why that's important is because most of music has been written in either a major scale or a minor scale. They give different colors, they give a different mood to a piece that uses pitches from that particular scale. The major scale represents a happy mood, a strong mood. The minor scale represents a sad one. Let me play you a major scale. Here's a major scale. Now, how many of you think that this is a happy, a strong mood? Okay, if you said yes, then you're correct. That's what that particular scale is supposed to represent. Now let me play a minor scale. Did that sound happy? Did that sound strong? No, not so much. It sounded more sad. It sounded more pensive, more thoughtful, more... You can use whatever adjective you want, but it didn't sound happy, it didn't sound strong. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that a scale is better than another one. It's just they're different than one another. So whatever mood as a composer chooses to showcase, they're gonna use a certain scale to write that piece in. Now, what does that exactly mean, write a piece using a certain scale? Well, as we know, we have 7 different pitches in music, and then we actually have 5 more pitches in between them. But don't worry about that too much. I don't, want you to be concerned with that. Just know that every in between every letter, you can have another pitch. So between A and B, I can have another pitch, and that's actually called B flat or A sharp. But like I said, this is not material that I'm going to quiz you on, so just kind of keep it in the back of your mind. Know it's there, but don't worry too much about it. However, why that's important is because every pitch that we're talking about can be the beginning, can represent the beginning of a scale. So if I have C, for example, C can be the first pitch in a scale. And I'm just gonna go C, D, E, F, G, A. And because I need two more pitches, I'm gonna go B, C. And I'm gonna descend. And here's I have a scale that begins on C. And this one sounds happy, sounds strong, so I know it's a major scale. So this specific scale will be called C major. Why? Because we're always going to use the very first pitch that begins, that starts at scale, to give it the scale name, and then we're going to use its quality, whether it's a major scale or it's a minor scale. So in this particular case, because the scale sounds major, it's going and starts on C, it's called C major. Now, the pitch that starts a scale is called a tonic. T-O-N-I-C, tonic. And the tonic is important because it has a kind of like a home quality to the scale. We're always going to have to go back to the tonic in order for a piece or for a scale to feel like it's complete. I can't stop a scale in the middle of it and say, okay, this is done. It's not going to sound very appealing to the ear. For example, here's a tonic. If I stop in the middle and I say, okay, my scale is done here, it's not going to sound complete, right? I have to do this. I have to go back where I started, back to the tonic. So this idea of having the pitches revolve around a certain tonic is called tonality. And most music is written using this idea. Most songs will have one single pitch that represents the tonic, and the songs can develop and they can go to a lot of different places. But when they come back, they're always going to go back to the tonic. Let's take a very simple song. Let's take Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and try to represent that. So this is the tonic, right? One more time. I start on tonic. And I end on tonic. And then I go to the next part. However, we know that the song doesn't end here. Guess what? It ends on the same note that it started on. It ends on the tonic. Okay? Now this is a very simple example, but if you take a look at most music, probably 99% of the traditional classical and probably 100% of the pop music will end on the tonic. The tonic is just that important. So, since we talked about this, let's talk a little bit more about the melodic structure. And what the melodic structure is the way we organize the notes in phrases. Because just like when we have a regular conversation, if you want that person to listen to what you're talking about, there must be a certain rhythm to that particular pitch. There must be a certain organization to the words. You can't just speak for an hour without taking a break, without taking a pause, without taking a breath. And it's the same in music. A piece of music should be split into a number of phrases because these particular smaller structures allow the listener and the performer to take a little bit of a break. Each phrase is going to have a starting point, a pinnacle, which means a high point, and then an end point, just like a spoken phrase. So when we listen to music, we can hear a phrase ending via a variety of ways. So for example, let's go back to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Now, here's where my phrase ended, right? I can pretty much stop the momentum right there and say, okay, this is an end. How do I know? Well, there's a pause and there's also a slowdown in the momentum of the piece, right? And in this particular case, it's very clear that that structure represents a single phrase. And then I can follow with another phrase, another phrase, another phrase, and that's fine. But it's very clear again that the first phrase has ended over there. Sometimes you're going to have phrases that work in tandem. A phrase requires for another phrase to follow it. And that's called an antecedent-consequent relationship. For example, back to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Let's go at the beginning. That's the first phrase. That's called the antecedent. Now, I know that I'm gonna have to play something else because the piece cannot end here. So the second phrase, so what we had over there were two phrases, one following the other one. The first one was the antecedent, the second was the consequent. Very good. Next we are going to talk about the harmony, but I want to make sure that if you have any questions about this particular chapter, please email me. Also, don't forget to do the reading, and I shall see you next time when we're going to talk about chapter 4. Thank you very much.